Good afternoon. I'm Billy Turriff, full-time property investor and developer and founder of Kensington Finance. This is one of a series of updates I'm doing on a live project that I'm working on. The project is Church Road in Eccles. It's a mixed-use development where on the ground floor we have a cafe and a bar that's on a 12-year lease to Malaga Drift. Upstairs is the conversion of an office into two one-bedroom apartments. I think today we've given you a bit of an update on what the deal is, the finances behind the deal, what the planning process we had to go through, and also our process for shortlisting builders and inviting them to an open day. Since the open day, we had, I think, about 8 builders came on site. We got 4 formal bids from the builders. What was interesting about the bids was there was quite a variety in price, even though they had all the same information and they had the same scoping document. So we had two prices at the lower end of about £55,000, and we had two quotes, one at 80 and one at about mid 70s. The one at 80 we ruled out because they simply gave us a price and said that if we were interested they could submit a full scoping document. Kind of view was that builder was obviously busy, was obviously pricing at the top end, and would only do the work if we were prepared to pay over. Obviously doesn't make sense from our perspective. That really then left us with two 55 quotes and a 75 quote. But what was a bit challenging for us was we knew all three builders. Either myself or my architects worked with them before, so we're quite comfortable in terms of that they would have understand the work and they should be knowing what they were quoting for. So what we really wanted to do was validate that is the two guys at 55, have they actually missed something, and is there something the person that's coming at 75, have they identified something that the others haven't. So we simply had an open conversation with that builder, said where roughly the two quotes were, didn't really understand why his was coming in at that level, and could he actually validate his prices. He then had a look at his, and he did come back and he said that there had been an error on his side in terms of the way he treated some VAT, how he priced some jobs, and he apologised, etc. And then he came in with a quote, kind of mid to late 50s. So without going to the exact details, and because the quotes are slightly different depending on what was in scope or not, but really the three of them were between 55 and 60. So that gave us comfort that we've got three good companies who've done projects of this size and bigger, that got good track records in terms of, checked out with the Iron Company's house, accounts are up to date, reasonable financial performance, and we're quite comfortable any three of them could do the job. What we're now doing in the next day or two is just going to make a decision on what one that we want for that. And really that decision will probably be based on my work requirements for the next kind of 12, 18 months, and certain builders and expertise I need to kind of build on that, and also their own work capacity. They're all saying that the projects should take about 3 months to do. Reality is, I'm aware we've got kind of Christmas and New Year, so we'll probably lose a couple of weeks during that period. But aim is to work with Grant, the architect, this week, get the final builder selected out of the three, look to get our contract then issued with the builder, and we'll get that signed in the next kind of 7 days or so, and look to have the builders on site probably by mid-December, with then a completion 12 to 14 weeks after that. The reality is, the method I use, because I'm an investor, I'm not a builder, Grant, my architect, will then manage that process. So we'll have a contract, we'll have payment terms with them. It's typically be 2 weeks to keep them in cash the whole time, but we'll only draw down funds to the builders every 2 weeks based on a valuation that Grant will do. So he'll go on to site, he'll say you've quoted X for plastering, you've quoted X for electrics, you've quoted X for plumbing, you're 50% through X, so therefore we can release 50% of that. Also, as part of these projects, we do a 5% retainer. The point of the retainer means that we get clarity around the snagging. but it's also then held back for, or sorry, I think it's actually 10%. So I think we do 5% at project completion, and then we actually do project 6 months, the final 5%, 6 months later, when we're sure that there's no defects. It's kind of sensible management, make sure the builders have cash frequently, they can meet their cash flow, but also protects us as the investor to make sure the works, we're only paying for work as it's being done, and we've got appropriate snag process in place. That will really be managed by Grant. We'll just have to sign the checks. We will go on to site at certain times, and probably next time we do an interview of this, we'll do it on site once the builders are there. But that actual build process, I'll now trust with Grant and the builders to get on with. There's a number of technical things that I do need to look at though. So the first one is actually just checking the final design of the two one-bedroom apartments. And by that, I typically would work with my interior designer and also my furniture guys. So this isn't changing anything in the scope, but this is just checking, does the actual layout of where we've put the electric sockets, where we've put the light sockets, where furnishings is likely to go, does that actually, in terms of what's in the plan, are we 100% that's correct? So I'll do a bit of that with my technical guys just to make sure the initial plans are 100% right. Also, we'll probably do some built-in furnishings, probably around kind of wardrobes and desks, so start to get them measured out, start to get them designed by my furnishing guy. So we're 3 months before the project's done, but it means that we've got plenty of lead time to make sure that they're ordered and they're in stock, and then they can come on close behind once the once the builders are finished. The other thing that's quite interesting for me, I mean, I typically work a lot with multi-lets where we do fully furnished. Spoken to a couple of different agents about for one-bedroom apartments if it's better to have it fully furnished or if it's better to have it not furnished. Advantages of fully furnished means you might open up to a wider group of people ready to drop in quite quickly because everything's there for them. Disadvantage though, because it's not their own furnishings, they may well move on every 6 months or 12 months. So I kind of need to make a decision in the next couple of weeks whether I'm going to fully furnish it or maybe just put in some built-in wardrobes, etc., in the bedroom. So that's kind of one technical decision I need to do. Got some other technical issues and that I'll update you on once I get clarity on them. One is the final VAT position. This building was purchased as a VATable entity. It was done as a transfer of going concern, which is good because you get your VAT back. And what I'm not 100% sure though is once we're finished it, whilst the commercial definitely stays VATable, we have a choice with the residential whether I keep it in this entity that I got just now, which is McDonald and Hamilton Commercial Estates, or whether we actually spin off the residential ones into McDonald and Hamilton. So it's just a finance issue, working out the most effective way to do that. But to do that, I need to speak to a VAT specialist. I need to speak to my broker to understand our refinancing options. And then if we do decide to spin it off, I need to get my solicitor on place to create, basically when we title split it. So the moment it's one building, if we title split it, it would become three entities. So we'd have the cafe, the bar, and we'd have the two one-bedroom apartments. Some other technical stuff we need to look at is I don't intend to sell these apartments. They're there to keep for the long term. However, I'm aware things may change, and at one point I may want to sell them. So we need to split the utilities as they come in. So the electricity and the water. I don't think we've got gas there. So you've got two choices with this. You can appoint someone to do it, and they'll take care of it. It's a relatively, famous last words, in my view, small job in terms of getting the people out. So the kind of network operators, showing them the building, them understanding, doing a survey, deciding if any roads need to be dug up, if there's any extra work to be done, giving me a final price to split them, and then getting the work done. The reality is it's quite an important part of the project. I've seen before in projects when we don't do this, that if there's a delay, it can then hit the build part. So for that reason, I'm not outsourcing it. I'll do it in-house and I'll take responsibility. So if I update you later on and it's delayed, it's down to me. There's then some other kind of admin stuff that is important. So stuff like the addresses of the building to make sure people can get their mail. Believe it or not, it does take time. There's also a thing called the VOA, who is responsible for allocating, council tax and bandings to organisations. So it's important that I get all this admin done in place when the guys are doing the kind of more difficult work in terms of the building. Because what that means is as soon as they're finished the building, we'll then be ready to lease the flats out. Also, as I'm deciding about furnishing or unfurnishing, I'll be working with what agent I'll be using to get the tenants from it. So I think we're in quite a good state. The big thing for me from November was to get the price in, was to get a builder selected. The prices are actually slightly less than where I thought they would be, so that's a pleasant surprise and makes a change. The focus for December now is to get the build work started, and for me to make sure all the admin tasks that are required are ticked off in that. And then I'll look forward to updating you probably around the middle of January as the build is underway and you can see how the one bedrooms are taking shape. Thanks for listening. If you would like to see the full videos we've done for this Church Road commercial to residential conversion, they're in YouTube and we'll put the link below. Speak to you soon. Bye.